came up with a thing called the work funnel, and it's basically WIRC. W is your website, I is Instagram, R is reviews, and C is cancel or confirm. And it's basically simple. You do a quick 12-step audit and you figure out what is broken in my system. Why is the funnel not working?
We have almost a 90% failure rate in first 5 years for restaurants for our region. It's because they're ignoring all of these data points: food costs, their employment costs. Maybe they even focus a little bit on the culture, the ambiance, and the quality of their food. But at the end of the day, business does not exist without the acquisition of customers, without new revenue coming through your front door, and then the retention of that customer. Is there any specific story or event that you can highlight that really changed your mindset?
A couple of years ago.
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we discuss how to grow 1% every day in both business and itself. Today, we have Brady Lowe, the founder of Taste Network, a full-service agency focused on helping hospitality brands grow and scale with activations that drive real ROI. Excited to talk with Brady about his extensive background in the hospitality and marketing industry and how he turned his current agency from $10,000 a month to $2 million per year. Thank you, Brady, for joining me today.
Thanks, man. Good to be here.
Yeah, excited, man. I got to dive into your website a little bit, learn a little bit about your background, and we had a lot of similarities when it comes to just the timeline of things and the difficulties that we had to deal with. So can you enlighten us kind of how you got to where you are today, the path that you've got down, and how you built the company that you have, that you're running at the current moment? And really, I want you to get granular about the trials and tribulations that you've gone through, because you mentioned a few of them before the call, but you've really gone through the ringer to build Taste Network. And can you elaborate on kind of how you got here?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about the millions of dollars that I've lost, in the last 20 years, that's a pretty unique story. And I think everything comes with, a grain of salt and a bag of education. And with what we've been doing, so to give it to you, when I got to Atlanta in 2000, I basically was working the restaurants. I was fine dining, had an education around wine, had an education from entrepreneurship from the University of Iowa, and I wanted to get into marketing and advertising. I didn't take the job that I wanted, so I basically was sitting, in Atlanta working, fine dining and killing it on wine sales. So they put me in the bar system. They were going to give it to me, give me the whole beverage program, which is like a $2 million program at a really nice steakhouse. And then they gave it to another guy who I thought had the palate of a goat. And I was like, I'm out of here. And I basically remember sitting in my pre-shift with a big marker circling want ads. I mean, this is back in the day, like when you had want pads in the classifieds, right? And the managers walked by and they're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what the fuck is this, Brady? You're for real? And I'm like, yeah, you gave my job away. So at that point, I wanted to go look for my vices. I found a job in a wine and cheese shop because I really during the day, I was hitting the book a list and trying to build business and call them because I had this marketing, advertising, design. I could build things with Photoshop and Quark Express. And I knew this kind of these things. So at that point, I had worked at a wine and cheese shop and I had this aha moment. I gave someone an experience the first time with wine and cheese and it blew their mind. And there was that. I was like, all right, I want to do wine and cheese pairings and I want that to be my all-in moment right now. So I did that for about 6 to 7 years. And my goal was I wanted to be the person who was going to be the best wine and cheese educator, the best pairings, etc. Food and wine classic, teaching classes, all that kind of stuff, writing books. And then from there, I had all these clients who were having me come into in and out of their cellars, drinking wines, $50,000 bottles of wine that I shouldn't be touching. I'm from Iowa. I didn't have any rights to this stuff. And then boom, 2008 happened. And the economy took a dump and everything fell apart. That's when I decided that all my clients who were with me were gone. I was doing about, it was that $10,000 a month, good month. I was doing pop-ups and tastings, et cetera, for Taste Network, but it wasn't secured, And then I started a thing called Koshan 505, and I put together a 20-city culinary tour franchise that went all over the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. We worked with the best chefs in the industry, Michelin star, gastro pubs, mom and pops. And the whole thing we were talking about was going all in on how do we support small family farmers. So I took stage, and this is where that ethical component comes in, right? I was kind of beginning this concept of farm to table, what was like, this is 2008. I mean, the words weren't formed farm to table yet. And we really started putting this kind of like sourcing. I remember reading Michael Pollan's book, about like, where's your, like, how to create your own meal and stuff like that, Omnivore's Dilemma. And it started hitting me that small family farmers were the thing that everyone needed to know about. So I took the stage for the next 10 years, next decade. And I basically said, either you're going to pay for food now from the right people, or you're going to have hospital bills and pay for pills later. And it was basically eat healthy, support the right people, or pay for it long term. And we got a lot of friendships, built a lot of equity in the hospitality space, and worked with the best wineries, the best brands. I mean, we're at like, 150 brands sponsorships a year. I mean, we were doing a couple $1 million a year. And then I exited and sold that in 2016, 19 for real for Gone. Then I decided I was going to open a restaurant, which got swallowed up by COVID. So there's a lot of like learnings in this game, right? I mean, there's really great ideas that fell flat. There's lots of money that you put into things that you lose. There's systems that you need behind your business that really are important no matter who you are, what you do, how you do it. Like you really need process, SOPs, playbooks, and systems, or your staff is going to run amok. And that's where we really started to kind of like shine. So for the last, 15 years, it's really been like process, systems, predictable profits, playbooks. What can we do? How can we help? And now that's kind of where we're at today is, full service agency. I've got IP events that are like really high end, doing some like elevated luxury culinary experiences for guests, working with really great partners like, Aspen Food and Wine, Aspen Ski Co, Nourish, which is at One Hotels, F1, V Foundation, Super Bowl. Like we have this great platform, right? But what's really next is kind of like where I'm at today.
I listen, incredible background story and ripped through it and it kind of undermined a little bit all the trials and tribulations you went through there. But just to, they say that pressure makes diamonds. And it seems that you were the right conglomeration of an individual. When that pressure hit, you were able to pivot, adjust. And what a golden nugget you brought up there of you followed your passion when the passion presented itself. You knew that the food and wine industry was what you wanted to dive into as you started messing around with it. And you're like, I want to go all after this. And then looking at it 25 years later, you're saying, yeah, the passions are great, but the standard operating procedures, the practice of executing on a consistent basis and understanding maybe your margins, your structure, that the way that you're presenting yourself, your food, your business is what matters in the overall grand scheme. And how you build into that process is just an incredible story to hear. Talk to me now a little bit about how Taste Network is working today to kind of fix the hospitality industry. You mentioned before, Hannah, before we got in the recording, that there's multiple problems that you see in the hospitality industry that you're looking to solve. Can you address that a little bit and kind of hit on what are these key problems that you're seeing in the industry, and then how Taste Network specifically is attacking those to help these local based businesses, these mom and pop shops, and these major corporations?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one first thing that we all need is we need to get trust, right? You need to be at the table. You need to sit with the right audience, and you need to ask the right questions. And I've been really fortunate to do that big 20 city tour for a decade plus, right? And meet the great chefs and to really work with them. But I was also really putting a big challenge in front of them. I mean, I wasn't like, hey, let's just do an event. I was like, here's a 250-pound pig. You got 7 days to cook it. I need you to make it disappear in 90 minutes when you have 500 guests in front of you and then get voted on by the best people in the industry on the winner of the day. Like, that's a challenge. So, but they saw that there was coming from a place of like truth, right? And that there was passion and impact and intentional behind it. So with that, I started to kind of like open doors, and then people were like, well, I can't buy these pigs all the time. I can't work with small family farmers. We have POs, we've got processed, we have food costs, and they're more. And you start to kind of like get the trust and building the conversations and kind of beating up people a little bit about like, well, there's always really no excuse rule, right? So I guess I earned a little bit of trust in the hospitality industry, and now I'm trying to like pay that back. And what I mean by that is I see all the skills that I have and things that I've learned and the investments that I've made myself with like growth and mindset and really trying to become the best person that I can be for my clients and for my business and just for myself. But you're starting to see kind of what's happening in the hospitality industry, right? Like it's been through the grinder for the last 5 years.
And I also think you were ahead of your time. I mean, what you mentioned before of the fact that you either pay for the food now or you pay for the medical bill later, I think people are just starting to understand that correlation in their real life. I think you were ahead of the ball there.
Thanks. It was just important to me. You know what I mean? Like what you believe in is something that people can attach to, right? And I was lucky at that place. I got some trust and some respect out of it and some reputation. We built a brand, which people know. And now I feel like I have the I don't know, I kind of like have the it's I don't know, I feel like it's my duty to like go back into the hospitality industry and give back, right? Gave me a life, gave me an opportunity to meet tons of great people. So if I can pay it forward or pay it back into it. So there's a couple things that are like wrong here, right? And I feel like people don't understand the digital playbook, right? And when I say digital playbook, I mean digital channels. I mean everything that has to do with your website, your social, your video, your photo, everything is your brand narrative. Everything that precedes people walking in the door of the experience of the restaurant in which you want to serve them. It can be a winery, a brewery, anything ending in Erie. It's that kind of space, right? We are here to serve and be served. Like that's hospitality. And I feel like we have been kind of shamboozled by PR and agencies. I am an agency, but my job is to bring the truth and honest to my clients. And that's why I work with the certain ones I do, right? If you don't like the way we do it, we don't work together. I mean, that's the way life is. But when you look at what's happening in hospitality, people are paying anywhere between $5,000 and $1,000 a month on PR and social media. Show me one who has that dialed in to a ROI, which they're getting it back every single month. What do the reports look like? And that doesn't look just like the hospitality. That's like any customer service based industry that has to use social media, right? Show me a PR team and show me a social media team that are working together, that aren't double charging you for the same energy. And then show me the ROI that if you give me 10 grand, I'm going to give you 100 grand worth of money back. Like you're going to get 100 grand in income. That's the return, like why would I give my money? Why would I give 10 grand to someone to status quo? Like that's just, and I feel like that's the problem with the industry right now is I think people are just willing to pay money out to participate, but they're not expecting what it's in return. But they'll expect the return on their bartenders to be there on time, to be dressed on time, to do their nails on time, to look good, to play the part, to know the narrative, to tell the story, to know every single ingredient of every single cocktail. So every guest experience is on point, right? Same with food, same with kitchen staff. But why is our social media people off the hook? They'd never come to my restaurant. They come in and do a couple of photos every once in a while, and then they go out and get like what I call like likes and poof poofs, like they're just like that doesn't help me. Like it doesn't sell seats. Now I'm participating, but what we're not doing is engaging. And I think that's the real kind of gem that I'm trying to really get fixed here is how do you truly engage as a hospitality member with your audience who you want to come serve? And how do you make that a really good and an amazing experience?
Brady, I got to interrupt you. You are the fucking man. I don't swear a lot of times on these podcasts, and everybody that's heard these podcasts before understands that I speak almost identical with the charisma and the energy that you just spoke about tracking attribution and return on investment. And not just, I mean, I say this to every single person that we work on. If I want to work with you, the whole point's not to generate revenue, it's to generate profit, right? Which are two totally different numbers, right? Revenue, I could easily spend $1 million and make you $500,000 in revenue, but you're negative in your profit every single time. And in the food industry with margins so small, you have to ensure that every dollar you put out is going to bring dollars back into your business, or you are just going to be bleeding and bleeding and bleeding cash. And to hear your animation, your charisma, and your just passion towards making sure every business owner, everybody in the hospitality understands that that is not only what they should be looking for, but possible and what they're spending their dollars in is we're on the same mission there. I'm with you 110%. The amount of people that I've sat down and asked them how much money they're spending on advertising, and they don't even have a Facebook pixel on their damn website tracking the attribution and the success behind that dollars blows my absolute mind.
It makes me sick. Like, it just makes me feel so like bad. Like I just don't know what to do. It's not fair that this industry which goes so far to provide for us an experience for weddings and anniversaries and birthdays and first dates and everything that we do.
And that companies will take that and completely ignore the value that it actually brought. And to be totally honest, once you set it up correctly, and like you said, you have an understanding of the presentation of the business, the actual messaging and the visionary practice that you have to put behind these tools like Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, and do them correctly, the return's massive. We brought a client on 35 days ago that's a pizza restaurant in Texas who was spending $5,000 in advertising, couldn't report anything, and wasn't generating much because the previous business was using reach campaigns and awareness campaigns and didn't know what they were doing. And within the first month, we spend $5,000 and do $40,000 in direct trackable revenue, which you and I both know it's under tracking. I wish we had. I'm going to nerd out and ask a nerd question for you because you got me super excited. Have you found a way to integrate the ability to track the offline and online events together to show attribution for your efforts? Have you figured a way how to put that together yet? Because I'm still trying to figure it out.
Well, events is one thing, right? And if you talk about being like sitting at a dinner table at a restaurant being an event, that's one. If you're talking about an event ticket purchase, that's different. But I guess what we're trying to solve for and what we're trying to fix here is the problem, right? Well, it was just floodlight the problem that we have people who go to a website. How many people do you have visit your website every month? Do you know?
Me personally for Kaizen, I know. Yeah, I got Google Analytics, Metapix. I know where they're coming and how many. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I do. I mean, I don't need to worry about it because I'm not like, I don't, and that's not what my measurement is, right? Like, but as a restaurant, let's say that I asked the question, they don't know. They know what their food cost is. They know how much they're paying their social media person. They know what they're paying their website person. They know what they're paying PR, but they don't know how many, like, all right, let's say it's 5,000. All right, how many people turn into emails that you capture out of that 5,000 traffic?
What's your conversion rate on it? My favorite question is, do you know the difference between your new customer cost per acquisition and your returning cost per acquisition? Do you actually know what it costs to drive a new person through your front door? And everyone's like, I'm not quite sure. It's like, man,
and that's where my job is. My job is to figure out how to break it down into simple metrics, right? If you have 5,000 people walk by your front door, aka website, and you only get 4 people to stop in, there's a problem, right? Let's put a sign out. Let's get someone out there to a jumpsuit. Let's figure out how to draw some attention to us, right? So we hire PR, social media, etc. Now we got some energy going. Now our 5,000 walk bys turns into 7,000. Well, what are we actually truly converting, right? What is the conversion? And that is, first one is like, how many emails do you get? Do you get 4,000 emails every month from that traffic? And then what do you do with them? Question mark. Like you're just poking the bear. But the thing is, what I come up with, we came up with a thing called the work funnel. And it's basically WIRC. Work is your website, or W is your website. I is Instagram, R is reviews, and C is cancel or confirm. And it's basically simple. You do a quick 12-step audit and you figure out what is broken in my system. Why is the funnel not working? And basically what we've solved for is you come into the website, we want you to give you a high value content offer, something that's going to make someone give you in return their email address. I want to give it to you because you just offered me something of high value, right? It's the exchange. And you go to their Instagram page and you click on and you connect that offer with an email address and their Instagram. And now you put them in a CRM tool. CRM tool, 90% of restaurants don't even know what it is. They don't know how to use Salesforce, HubSpot, or Zoho on their daily acquisition. But it's in platform foreign language, right? So how are we going to create a digital acquisition platform that solves the industry? Bento Box can go out and get 10,000 new restaurant clients, but there is no conversion to that. It's just go here, make pretty website, be done. Like we want to change all that. We want to give the restaurant industry like a reset. And that's what our mission is.
Oh, dude, it is a beautiful thing to hear. The passion, the energy, and again, I'm getting excited because we're very like-minded. Coming from a restaurant industry, watching my parents' restaurant die, and then starting this based off of I never want that to happen to any owner out there. And I had a little background in direct mail, which had falsified numbers all in itself because it was harder to track. And then to get into the digital space for the entrepreneurs and restaurant owners listening to this right now, me and Brady are kind of nerding out on how exciting it is that you have this potential to grow, that there is this much opportunity at your fingertips if you can clear out the bullshit and actually understand what is needed for your restaurant to be successful. To have a, as I love that acronym you did, website optimized and structured to grab leads. Instagram, understanding how to pull that data from Instagram to put it into a CRM system. What was the third one you gave?
Reviews.
Review, which we all know is super powerful. The first comparison, we all do comparison contrast when we go into that buying decision, right? We get into that lower part of the buying mindset of, okay, I was hungry. I need to find a restaurant. What do you want, wife? Doesn't answer. Okay, we'll pick Italian. And you go through the Italian restaurants, and now the next thing you're checking is reviews. Which one has better reviews than the other? And then the final one was cancellation or confirmation. And that one really is the follow-up system and the closing procedure. But what you're listening to right now is a step-by-step guideline of what you can do to ensure success of your restaurant. We have almost a 90% failure rate in first 5 years for restaurants for a region. It's because they're ignoring all of these data points. They hit the data points you brought up before, Brady, with the fact that their food costs, their employment costs, maybe they even focus a little bit on the culture, the ambiance, and the quality of their food. But at the end of the day, business does not exist without the acquisition of customers, without new revenue coming through your front door, and then the retention of that customer, especially in this style of business where your main revenue driver is the percent of returning customers into your business. It'll always cost you more to acquire a new one than it is to bring an existing customer back. So listen, if we got a little too excited there, need to rewind that. Make sure you do, because there is bullets after bullet after bullet of factual data that is needed to be successful. So I got to ask, Brady, you're breaking down the exact step-by-step of what's needed. You broke down some current clients that you're working, some really big clients that you're working with, but you've also told me about some programs you have to help out absolutely everybody. Can you break down kind of your ideal customer that you have at Taste Network, who walks through your front door and you're like, we're absolutely going to crush this and scale this restaurant to the moon? And then also, if that's not the ideal one that you work with your hands-on process, the tools and the resources that you have for everybody else within Taste Network.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think, you know, I'm gonna give it just a couple of like sound bites. I think one, everybody listening to this can just jump on and we're gonna give you the work funnel. Like it's attached to this, it's free. We're gonna give you that. We also have like on the website 12 questions to ask your designer, your website designer before you fire them, 12 questions to ask your PR teams before you fire them. You know what I mean? Like, what are people not doing for you? And I think we're just not giving the right frameworks or training the right frameworks into our culinary teams and culinary staff and hospitality leaders. So I think we're missing some of the points. So when you ask the question, what am I doing? Where is my dream client right now at Taste Network? The dream client it's twofold. There are beautiful $1 million clients that it's nice to have. It takes a year or so to stabilize. You put them on the you put them on the North Star vision and strategy and campaign, and it's a 3 to 5 year run. Like, we do good work, right? But I'm not into one and dones. So perfect client, is in that 7 figure. Let's rock and roll and let's get you to where you want to be and enter the marketplace in a new and amazing way and stabilize a legacy, right? That's one. Two is the Next 10 program. This is me wearing the events producer hat, right? I've spent the last 20 years producing events, hire, refire, hire, retrain, play again. Like, you work, you're not great. Like, the whole thing, disappointments and celebrations, right? The whole game with that. And it's really hard to go into that process when you're building events, is just to kind of hire people and see them come and go. But we build such value in people that they need to go. And that's what we see in the hospitality industry. Like, give someone some value, they'll go leave to go make more money somewhere else. That's great. But as the owner, you're stuck with retraining, rehiring. You know what I mean? So I built Next 10. Next 10 is basically a coaching and training plan where essentially you come in, we do weekly calls, and we basically help you with all the systems that I've used in my agency and my events for the last 20 years, all on Google Drive. You can watch a video for free to see if it's your thing, if it's going to help you. Then you can download my entire Google Drive North Star Vault that would get you going in the right direction. But if you want to take that the next level and you want to see how to take an investment, it's like $7,000 to get into the program, and we're going to help you turn that 10 times over. We want to see people be able to come from the event entrepreneurs into agency owners. Like, how do we get people on that path? And people that are in that path, how do we help them create new revenue streams? Like, that's what I'm good at. And then the third avatar is the hospitality industry. Is 100% anybody in the winery, restaurant, brewery, everybody who has the need to take their website, Instagram, turn it into a conversion component and really fix engagement across hospitality. And the real seller here is engagement needs to be true. The way that I would frame this is, imagine if you audited 90, this is another geeky one, right? But 90%, audit 90% of the hospitality industry. Go out, follow them. You follow 100 accounts. How many of them will actually take 1 minute to figure out who you are, that you have an amazing podcast, and that you're here for the hospitality industry? And be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for the follow. It looks like your podcast is doing great. Like, I listened to one of them, or I can't wait to listen to one. Like, how many times do people make one little effort, right? Just to make you feel seen. Instead, you get follows, likes, poof poofs, and all that kind of crap. Like, it's just like, follow me, like me. Thanks for the follow. Like, buy my food, right? Make a reservation. It's shallow. But if you took 90% of that communication and you give that now to the individuals that you have working on site at your restaurant, and that is the only vocabulary that they can use as your social media vocabulary, you're going to have a pretty bad guest experience. But we expect that those hard workers to know everything about every ingredient, every recipe, every dish, but your social media, who is your front line, is off the hook. It's a huge miss. You're basically looking at that upside down triangle where, 3% are hungry, 90% are left out, and there's 7% in the middle that just kind of like need some love. Like, 90% of hospitality is missing the boat of everybody that's out there that wants to get to know them, but they're just not engaging. And I think that is the mix right now. So we have a really big open door with the hospitality industry that I think we can start solving some problems. And that's kind of the mission we're on.
Oh, I love it. I mean, seriously, it's, and for the listeners, the thing that you guys have to keep in mind is that all of these platforms develop in the marketing world what we call pretense, AKA it's the concept that's in some consumer's mind before they take the next step of walking into your restaurant, walking into your business, ordering online, making a reservation, going to an event, the creative that is on your website. And then before that, that's on the social platforms, because that's where you're finding engagement that develops a psychological imprint in the consumer's mind that already gives them an assumption of who you are, what you do, how you deliver, how your food is, how your event is, everything in between. And that pretense is being so undermined, as Brady is saying here. It's really, the ball is being dropped, and the people that are doing it correctly are taking up the market share. I love to see some of the mom and pop shops that work with some of the local influencers and things of that nature that are starting to pull market share away from the franchises. Because I felt like about 10 to 15 years ago, it was hard to find a good mom and pop shop that was still running and going strong, because there was so much commercial development within the hospitality industry. Every franchise chain, I was down in Florida, so every franchise chain you could think of was popping up every single week. And the mom and pop spots really got a lack of love because they weren't in the mind's eye of the consumer. When Chipotle's dropping $500,000 on advertising and promotion, and the mom and pop shop doesn't have $500 to do it, you seem to forget about them because they're not on the consumer's mind. And that's what Brady's diving into here. Not only, and that little golden nugget of how to leverage Instagram followers correctly is super, super powerful, right? Giving that little bit, just that little bit back. And to be totally honest, there's a lot of automation tools that are trying to do this, but it doesn't really represent the love as what Brady represented in his example there. Really showing the compassion for the followers that come through, because every one of those followers are a customer. And think, if it only took you 30 seconds to acquire that organic customer, they came in through a follow because you had a good post, you sent a nice message, that message led to them walking through the front door. That is 2025 word of mouth. That is how you acquire new customers at the lowest possible cost, period. Because everything else is, you're either going to pay for it in a direct paid advertising world like what I live in, or you're going to work to develop flyer assets and put in the sweat equity to do it. Sending a quick message with a little bit of love and compassion could really go a long way. Brady, I feel like I could talk to you seriously for hours. I mean, I've gone through, this is my 84th podcast that I've gone through, have not resonated with somebody as much as how passionate you are about and I'm just gonna be blunt, clearing out the bullshit and showing people what's real to actually bring in the business and bring in and how to use these platforms correctly. I got to ask you because I got few more questions for you. I'm super interested. Next 3 years, okay? Hospitality industry has been warping and adjusting. A lot of things have been changing in the industry. We're now seeing robots going through sushi restaurants and dropping food off, something that we would have never thought in the hospitality industry 10 years ago. Where do you see it going in the next 3 years, barring some, another epidemic or something crazy happening? If it continues on the path that we're on with the development of consumers caring about their personal data a little bit more, but still looking for that way to connect to humans because we all care about that every single day. How do you think that your business at Taste Network or the hospitality industry in general is going to warp here in the next 3 years?
Oh, good question. The next 3 years of what I see in hospitality is a very interesting forecast. The horizon, I believe, is set with a lot of social media. I think there's going to be a lot of engagement until one point that people are going to put down their phones. They're going to get I hope that there's going to be a saturation point, but the world is not only trying to build a, kind of an automated economy, it is also trying, and it's not there to replace us, it's there to give us more freedom. And I'm hoping that people start to see that in the hospitality industry, that I wish and I want and I dream of the day that the energy says, hey, this robot's not going to take my job. This robot is going to give me an opportunity to spend more time with my family and get the free time that I deserve and not be at work all the time. It's living in a gap versus a gain, right? And getting people to really understand like where they are and what's the benefit of adapting right now to AI and how can we use it to really get our shit together. Like at the end of the day, it's like you either do or you don't. I mean, there's people that want flip phones and there's people that want cell phones. There's people that wanted internet in 2000 and people who didn't, and like the people who know how to type and those who don't. It's a very clear example right now that technology is catching up with some of the dinosaurs and T-Rexes of the game, and we're going to see a gap. And I hate to see like restaurants kind of fail because of being stubborn or because of pride, or the hospitality industry kind of stumble because of some kind of mindset belief blockers. But what I see is technology is here to support, and there's going to be a moment where people are going to be done with some of the like distractions because that's what technology is supposed to do. Like the best designers in Silicon Valley are here to make us distracted, right? So something is going to trigger a focus moment where that every hospitality owner and person working in the industry decides that they need to focus and go all in on it, and some trigger, right? We've had too many shitty triggers. Some trigger has to happen to make it all turn backwards. So I think true hospitality and true engagement will win. I think technology is going to reinforce that and give people the hands up. And I think the small, medium restaurants that are independent, that do an amazing job, are going to conquer. I think people are going to want real experience. That will never be, be done at home. You just can't eat at home 7 days a week. Even if you're the best chef, you still want to go be in a hospitable service, And I think that is, kind of like the horizon that I hope and I want to see. And I feel like it's going to happen,
My father always said food is always the best when you're hungry and somebody else makes it for you. And that still sticks with me today for sure. But I gotta pull some nuggets of what you mentioned before because you might have a little bit of juju or magic or something in your ability to forecast. You mentioned before about the consumers having to pay for good food now or having to pay for a medical bill later, and I think that was a projection of what was going to happen in the future and what we're seeing today. But you mentioned something else that you're helping businesses with today that I think is another projection of the future, which is the events. I think event styles and specific events within businesses faded hard after COVID. People were scared to bring people together. They didn't understand the best way to do it. Do we have masks? Do we not have masks? It's 6 feet, not 6 feet apart, whatever it is. And all of that is gone. That is to the wind, right? There's some areas that still have masks, but irrelevant. Consumers are ready to engage with people again and be out in an ambiance that they enjoy and around people that they enjoy. My ability to see multiple different avenues of advertising, not only do we do it for restaurants, but we're also seeing it for event planners and event promoters. And as the season of this summer is coming in, we have been selling tickets for outdoor and indoor events at a faster rate, a lower cost per acquisition than ever before. And I think that is what we're going to see excel, especially if these local mom and pop shops can do it correctly, like you were saying. If there was a nice farm to table restaurant that started holding small events at their location, explaining to them how their farm functions, explaining the quality of their food, explaining how the system overall works and why the quality is there. Every time that customer drives past a McDonald's, a Burger King, or a Chipotle, they're going to be like, I don't even know where that food comes from. I don't know if I should put that in my body. And I think truly, not to put words in your mouth, but that's the evolution that I see you kind of predicting here. And if you're listening to this and you find that to be accurate, make sure that down below in the description, we'll make sure we have a link to Brady's website at the Taste Network so you can get some of the content that he mentioned before to highlight how to promote these events and how to set up these systems correctly, because I truly do believe that will be the next step of advertising and the next step of presenting your restaurant and your hospitality business. I want to dive into a little bit more personal about you. You gave us an amazing background story. You've really hit the nail on the head. And again, if you're a restaurant owner listening to this, reach out to Brady. He had the same exact thing that I say, that we're here to help as much as we can. We're here to give advice and give support. He's already got everything documented. Make sure you reach out to him and get that content. But I want to understand through that process and procedures, through those trials and tribulations that you have gone through as an individual. Is there any specific story or event that you can highlight that really changed your mindset? You mentioned a huge mindset change of starting off with passion and then going into operations and structures and SOPs. You can bring that one up. Or if you have something that you believe would resonate with our listeners here, something that you went through that was a difficult time, but changed your mindset of how you look at the world today, how you look at the hospitality industry, and how you look at general business today.
Good question. It really does resonate very recently. And what I mean by that is a couple of years ago, like 3 years ago, I've exited my 20 city culinary franchise. I learned a lot of lessons in that. It wasn't all great and cheery. There was a lot of legal around the separations and stuff like that. So that gave me an entire, I felt like I was at a loss, right? But really, I was learning again. I was learning a whole new system of skills and trades that I would just, you just have to look at this stuff, right? You just have to be like, what are you going through this experience for, good or bad? But usually the bad ones tell you the most. So, I was going through this and we had great clients and the build out of our agency was really kind of working nicely and we were excited and everything was stabilizing. Literally, I went back to 2 hours a week I'm working and I'm like, oh, well, what am I going to do with this? I've got, I got some money and, I feel like I just hit the last rung on the ladder, which was probably number 2 out of a 10 rung ladder. So I wasn't really climbing very hard. I had 10,000 buddies around the country that I was in love with. I mean, I have friends everywhere, right? And lucky in that way, but I wasn't really fulfilled. And I don't know, it goes back to when I started marketing industry, I was looking at wineries against average industry mean for how much money you spend per dollar back on marketing to grow your business, right? If I say how much, you say, oh, for your industry, it's 20% on average, right? That you spend of every dollar to go back into the marketing engine to build a machine. And I was so amazed that the wine industry was only at 8%, but I saw that as an opportunity versus really understanding why they were hesitant. And then that number started to resonate in me a couple of years ago where I was like, well, why am I not investing in myself? And that's when I started to look into passive investing. And that was my one thing that came out of I really wanted to get into some mentors and some masterminds and really start to learn some new ways. But passive investing was my first one. Where do I take my money that can turn into mailbox money? How can I get financial freedom? Where is it? Why didn't someone come to me 20 years ago and say financial freedom, do at all fucking costs? This is the first thing you need to do. Save your money, put it here so you've got mailbox money, right? Because nothing's guaranteed. So I was like, boom. So 3 years I started that mission. And at financial freedom, I started all right, so where am I parking cash? What am I doing? And I realized that I didn't really put the investment in myself because everyone's saying the best investment you can make is in yourself, right? And I'm taking all my money and I'm like buying great meals and restaurants and parties and just one way party, like one way street. But I wasn't putting it all into books and into mindset and to growth. And I'm talking about health as wealth, not money as wealth, but like mindset as well. And how do you do that? And I basically spent $100,000 in masterminds over the last year and a half. And that has been the best single hand investment to churn everything around. Turning 50 this year. I've been in the best shape I have been in 25 years. Mental is the best. I see it. I've read more books in the last 2 years than I have in the last 25. I mean, an internet and my phone don't count as books, like real true books, like, and things that are kind of like following the rabbit down the hole type of stuff. And, it's been such a game changer to one, understand why to invest in yourself. And if I were to go back, 20 years from now, and this is a funny question I ask people when I'm on the plane next to them, if they look interesting, sometimes they don't want to like talk at all. But like, if they do look interesting, I go, hey, quick question for you. What would you tell yourself 20 years ago to your previous, from your future self? Like, is there one thing that you would say? And everyone always stops like, damn, that's an interesting question, and it's not like a instant write a play reply, people got to think. And I would probably go right now, I'd probably say financial freedom and spend 10 cents out of every dollar that you make back on yourself. That is enough to change that 1% that you're chasing every day as a change. It's more. It just compounds interest. And I think making that decision was the best decision I've made.
Brady, I mean, the segue here is incredible. My next question was, how do you find your Kaizen? Which, have you heard the term Kaizen before?
Yeah, but give it to me.
Kaizen, and for the listeners out there, it's a Japanese business philosophy that means 1% progression every single day in both business and in self. It is a constant ideology of how to improve, not just mentally, not just physically, but how you bring all that together to compound into business. And then, as you just said, it is a compounding effort that affects and grows day after day after day. And my next question for you was, how do you find your Kaizen? And you just laid it out perfectly. I mean, I couldn't for all the listeners out there, just hear the passion that Brady had there to explain the value that the books, after, like you said, you just turned 50, right? After all of these years, you dive in and you read more books in the last 2 years than you had in the last 25, shows that even after his exit, after his success in his current positioning of a very successful agency, he finds that diving into the knowledge of books and the education and going after the excess of the knowledge that comes from content after content that's been passed down for us from years and years and years is what you need to do to find the betterment of yourself and how you actually improve yourself. Brady, I absolutely love it. The time here has been impeccable. We could keep this going forever. And I would actually love to have you on another show to do a deep dive of the executional steps that a restaurant or hospitality would need to make if you're willing to have you be back on our show. Before we sign off on this, can you give the listeners how they get connected with you, how they find you, the best way for them to connect with you one-on-one so they can get more information if they're looking for help and really looking to understand how to grow their business with the right mentality? Because again, this is episode 85 and I haven't resonated with someone so much on the right mentality of success. How do these consumers find you? How do the listeners find you?
I think the best way is to follow me on Instagram. I've got Brady Lowe 75 at Instagram, and just you can DM me the word next if you want to get into my next 10 program and get like a free video, walks through the process, my whole scale, how we did predictable profits, the whole model, right? That's next 10. So all you have to do is DM the word next to me. And then on the other side, if you really want to like look at true engagement, the work funnel, how you take your website and Instagram and really dial it in, we do it. It's called the accelerator. And it's basically how do you take those two things and turn it into a cash generating machine? Because you're sitting on a gold mine, you just don't know what to do yet. And it's all you have to do is just basically DM me the word rev. Same place, Brady Lowe or Brady Lowe 75 at Instagram. And yeah, I mean, just go there and, you can look at the website. It basically takes you around my universe, but really the content there is the place to follow along.
I love it. I'm going to make sure that Brady's Instagram is below, as well as those keywords that you should be DMing him, as well as his website URL. Again, Brady, thank you so much for the time. It's been absolutely incredible getting this information out of you, getting the story out of you, and letting the listeners really absorb what was the factual moments and the factual things that made you who you are today and can help you as entrepreneurs and restaurant owners that are listening to this right now be successful in your path of making your imprint on this world. So, Brady, thank you so much for the time. And for the listeners, if you've made it to the end, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.